Hey everybody, welcome back. Vlog number 18 here. Today we're going to talk about our experience with and driving to Palo Duro Canyon State Park in Canyon, Texas. It was a CCC park as a whole, or was it just that the main focus was the road going into it? There were a lot of
Palo Duro.
Yeah.
No, it was. The park was purchased, I think, in like 1933 for a state park, and then the CCC went in, and they had, I think, 6 or 7 different crews that went in, and they were there for over 5 years. But their biggest challenge was building the road from the top of the canyon, or the top all the way down into the canyon. And that was about 11 miles long, they said.
Not to the bottom of the canyon, but the road from from the visitor center to the very bottom is 11 miles, or from the top all the way to the back end.
From the top all the way to the back end.
Okay.
They had to go in and hand.
Yeah, so
dig
there wasn't
a lot. No road.
Right, there was no machinery that they used, especially on the. There's almost a cliff hanging road. I think I have either a dash cam footage or other footage of us coming around the corner and just going down this kind of cliff-hanging type road that they built, and it is kind of interesting because there are no guardrails. No guardrails.
No guardrails. It's I mean it's.
So you hiccup or fart and over you go.
See ya.
Have a nice day.
It's a nice little drop. I think from the top to the bottom, though, it's only about 800 feet.
I was going to say 500 feet.
Yeah, it's 800, it said.
Along the way down, on the right-hand side, before you even start down into the canyon, there are still 2 or 3 original CCC cabins that you can rent.
And those cabins, I want to say, were probably the first that the CCC ever did, where they built them into the side sort of the mountain.
Right, as opposed to just by themselves.
Right. So
and
that
they're
was pretty
stone
unique
and
on its own.
I think either on your phone or my phone we have a couple of pictures of that. So
Yeah, because we did sneak in there and take some pictures.
We weren't supposed to, but we did.
Yeah, you know.
That's the way it goes. The trails, but let's back up for a second, because I want to really, because if you haven't seen, if our folks that are watching haven't seen Caprock Canyon's State Park, the vlog was number 17 on that. Let's talk about the biggest differences that we see between Caprock Canyons and Palo Duro Canyons.
Well, I think actually for probably both of us, the biggest difference was we felt that Caprock was much more dramatic.
Yeah.
Because when you got to Caprock, the campsites were at the top of the canyon. Looking in. So every time you went hiking or anything, you went down into the canyons, and you got to visually see. I mean, we didn't have to walk too far at night over the road, and we could look out over the canyons, which were gorgeous.
Yeah. Colorful.
Very colorful. Whereas Palo Duro, all your campsites were down in the canyons, so you never got that spectacular view.
Bird's eye kind of thing.
Unless you were driving out of the canyon.
Yeah. And even then.
And then I think it was also spoiled from the fact that you had power lines that brought power down into the bottom of the canyon, where you saw a lot of power lines, whereas you didn't see any of that in Caprock.
Right.
All your power lines were up top in a nice little area near the beginning, so you didn't get that invasion of Mother Nature.
Right, so it seemed to be, I mean, I don't know, they probably worked with what they had as far as Palo Duro is concerned, but whether it's accidentally, coincidentally, or whatever, it just seems like a more well thought out park for Caprock Canyons versus Palo Duro. Even though the Palo Duro, we didn't get, to be fair, we didn't hike a whole lot at Palo Duro compared to how we hiked at Caprock Canyons for a number of reasons. One was weather.
Yeah, the weather was really kind of crappy while we were there,
yeah.
And it just, you were led up to this big entrance for Palo Duro
Yeah.
that I had this vision in my mind. Okay,
Yeah.
the road going in was hand built.
Yeah.
It was just going to be very rustic, very. Yeah,
And did I or did I not hear correctly that Palo Duro was like the baby brother to the Grand Canyon?
Right.
When in fact it wasn't anything like that. It was, if anything, Caprock Canyons was the baby brother to the Grand Canyon. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the way we both.
Yeah.
So it was.
Yeah. Yep.
We were felt let down by
Yeah.
Palo Duro. I mean,
Right.
granted, it is bigger. I looked it up to make sure. I mean, Palo Duro's 28,000 acres, whereas
Yeah.
Caprock's only about 15,000.
But even though it may be 28,000 acres, like when we were at Caprock Canyon, there were 35 sites
Yes.
at Caprock, and how many sites, not primitive, but how many? There were like 1, 2, or 3. There were 3 different campgrounds with a
Yeah.
total of 143 sites. Because I think,
Maybe,
or
yeah, I don't know.
140, but
Yeah.
well, ours was what, 143.
Right.
So there was at least 143 sites. We were lucky to get a pretty nice site in the back of one of the first campgrounds as you come into the park. There's a total of 3. They're usually like loops or lines with a loop at the end. Ours was a line with a loop at the end, and our spot was sort of on this cul-de-sac type loop.
Yeah, and we had a nice picnic area.
Yeah, it
up
was raised
in the
picnic
rocks
area.
and
Yep.
stuff like that. So that was nice.
Right.
It was just. Yeah.
It just wasn't. We weren't feeling it.
Yeah.
Sometimes
I mean,
you have a day that you don't, or it comes to us maybe as a couple of days where you just don't. You don't have the inkling. I rode my bike once. We went for a hike once. We went for another hike, and then we had a couple of crappy days. So we went in town, did some errands, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And we went to the bird blind, which
We went
was
to the bird
just
blind.
not a good bird
No.
blind. It
Yeah.
wasn't maintained. It didn't have the water running. It was just.
We saw more bird activity, actually, from our campsite
Right.
where we were parked than we did at the bird blind. And one of the things that we saw that I finally got to photograph for the first time was a roadrunner.
Yeah, we had roadrunners come through every day.
Right, every single day. And not only come through, but we had this one guy would come into camp, and we would be sitting like this, and he would come 5 or 6 feet away from you and just look at you, knowing full well
That you're sitting there. Yeah.
that you're sitting there, and that if we even thought about getting up, he'd be gone.
Right, but he came
Yeah,
close
yeah,
every single day, and then we had
2.
five turkeys that would come
turkeys,
through
right.
once a day, probably twice a
Yeah,
day.
all
So,
from our campsite, and other
Right there.
various birds that we either have seen or hadn't seen before. Cardinals are everywhere. Everywhere we've been, we've seen a cardinal. It's like it should be the.
But I haven't seen one here. I know you did
I
yesterday
did. I
morning,
saw
but
one.
I
in the
haven't
corner.
seen one here.
And speaking of here, we're actually filming from a place called Meredith Lake NRA, which is not National Riflemen's Association. It's the National Recreation Area.
Yes.
So anytime we say
NRA, that's what we're referring
unless
to.
I specifically go bang bang and all that. So anyway, so there was that. So the other thing about we don't understand is there must be either a unsynchronized school vacation all the time, lots of homeschooling, or truancy is going through the roof because everywhere we go there's kids.
Especially lately.
Yeah.
I mean, right, Palo Duro had tons of kids
Yeah.
there during the week.
Yeah.
I mean, we left Friday morning, and Thursday night, the place
Yeah.
was filling up with people for the weekend.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's Thursday night, and there were probably at least 8, 9,
2.5 kids per campsite.
at least. Yeah.
2.5.
Yeah.
And then so I still think that if I was to go back to college, I would do my master's, and my dissertation be how and why young girls squeal like that high pitch that can just about break glass.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, they can
I
be
don't know
10
why.
miles away. It must be like a survival mechanism or something.
Running from you boys.
Could be.
But
Not
the
this point.
coyotes were great.
Coyotes were great.
Howling. We
Yep.
had the full moon when we were there. So I mean, it
Yeah,
was.
it was great.
It wasn't
No.
bad, but we just didn't feel the whole park experience like we have before.
Right. On the exterior of Caprock Canyons, we did go into, like one morning we got up and the weather was just rainy. It was crappy. So we decided, you know what, and this is the first time we've done this. We went into town
and had breakfast. We
did.
haven't done that since when? I can't
really.
November?
Technically.
December?
Yeah, but you're using McDonald's when we got up and was it?
Okay, I'm not using that. I'm just saying we haven't been out to a real breakfast.
Oh no,
in probably 6 months at least.
At least,
if not longer.
So we don't go out that much. Most of the time we cook right here at camp.
Connecticut is when we went out to breakfast.
Yeah. Okay. Right in Saybrook.
Yeah.
So we went to a place called KJ's. Really super nice people, super food, pancakes the size of a plate.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah, breakfast burritos are awesome.
Brought you an entire carafe of coffee.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never had that before. Huge mugs of coffee, carafe of coffee, so you could.
They bring it, and then they come out with the creams, and then they come out with a separate container for your trash.
Yeah.
And then there was a couple of sheriffs there that kind of pulled up alongside our vehicle, so we started looking like a SWAT team before we left. Yeah. And we brought the owner. Our owner wanted to come out and take a look at the vehicle, so we showed him around in the vehicle. And that is another thing. It's like every single time, everywhere we go, somebody wants a tour.
Yeah. We're going to start, I don't know.
So thanks, Mark.
And Turtleback.
And Dave for the trailer.
Yeah.
We pretty much stick out like blazes everywhere we go.
And it's okay, but there are times where Frankie comes out and you're just aggravated and you don't want people. Because it seems like every time we're cooking or we're in the middle of making dinner, people are walking by and, oh, hey, can we check that out?
And they usually wave from the road, but a couple of times they just waltz right in. They just come right around. Oh, just my curiosity got the best of me. I'm like, well, that's too bad.
Yeah. So we might have to start charging for tours.
Yeah, but it's okay. It all works out. Sometimes we meet some really nice people because of it. And that's all that counts.
It's true.
Now, the story of the hour, though. This is completely cool. The last night.
Yeah, no, that is good, but...
What were you going to say?
I know exactly what you're going to say, but then I was going to say, should we really spill the beans on how we helped? I mean, now you're just opening it up. We can't really...
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
Because that's...
Well, no, I can spin it.
Okay, well...
I can spin it. So we're there the last night, and we're sitting in our chairs just like this, having a cocktail. Sun's gone down, and about a half an hour before that, a Class A. If you don't know what a Class A is, usually this.
Everybody knows.
Everybody
knows what a Class A is.
Take George Strait's or Sting's or whoever's tour bus, and that's a Class A. So this Class A comes in and parks right next to us in a spot that was a handicap spot, and it was the only time the whole time we were there it was occupied. So this thing backs up. Well, we're cool with that. The Class A stops, and they get out, and they start unloading their stuff, and they put their chairs out, and they get the dogs to walk. And then the lady goes over to the shower, and she takes a shower, and she comes back, and the guy was sitting out enjoying the outdoors. And we see her go, we can't really see because we're looking at the left side of the Class A. And all of a sudden, we see her come back around the front, and she comes waltzing up towards us while we're sitting there. And I'm like, oh, man, what did we do wrong? Why is this? Because she just got out of the shower, and she says, wait,
you're never going to believe what I did.
Or something. I did something really bad. I did something.
And I'm like,
locked herself out of their Class A with no keys whatsoever. And one of her dogs was in there. Now, it wasn't hot or anything. It was just one dog wanted to be inside, one dog had to be outside, but whenever the door closed, it happened to lock, and they were both stuck outside without keys. So I'm not going to go into detail as to how I do it.
But John became the hero.
I did become the hero. In less than
hugs,
5 minutes, I could have been adopted.
Yep.
I should have had my adoption papers and the will right there.
That's right. Because it was a rental because they were renting this vehicle, so they didn't have.
They were trying it out. They're not sure if this is their lifestyle yet or not, but I think it is now.
I definitely think it is. That was
I must say, really nice people, and it's kind of funny.
Connie and Toby were their names.
Connie and Toby. Anyway, though, we became good friends. We gave them one of our cards, and
We got invited to go
Yep.
stay with them in Houston if we're ever
Yep.
in the area.
Yep.
So, it's just nice.
Yep.
It's amazing the people, once again, that
Yep.
you meet
yep,
sometimes.
yep. So that was that. So then the following morning,
We left at dark early.
got out, saw 3 mule deer on the way out, climbed out of the canyon, got on the road, foggy.
Yeah, it was another foggy.
Half drizzly, not quite drizzly, but real damp kind of day. Weather it's just like this, up, down, up, down. And one thing that's always seems to be constant, not that you're gonna have at least 3 out of 4 days, is wind, and a lot of wind. And we're still experiencing it where we're sitting right now. We just happen to have a break today, but it's still on and off. And even
Today's
last
been
night,
the least amount of wind.
Yep.
I think we're
Yep.
anywhere between 5 and 8 miles per hour.
Yeah, not too bad.
So
Not too bad.
we're okay with that.
Right, so then we got out and we headed to Buffalo Lake NWR, National Wildlife Refuge, which is in Humboldt, Texas. And that's what vlog number 19 will be about. So we'll catch up with you on vlog 19 for Buffalo Lake Canyon, Buffalo Lake
Buffalo Lake.
NWR next on here on The Turtle and the Tiger.
Okay, bye guys.
Take care. Bye.